Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Crack the Egg. I'm Jess,
And I'm Adriana.
and today we will be debriefing Adriana's latest market. Um, so in the meantime, as before we get started, what are you working on?
I am currently for a custom order working on freehanding a pair of overalls. So I've made the overalls before. If you're watching the YouTube, you can kind of see this is my progress. They're technically for a fox, so this hippo's not it, but I just needed a lovey that was roughly the same size and roughly had the tail in the same location to base it off of since I don't have a fox already made. I've made the overalls before. I made them previously for a bunny last summer. So while I don't obviously have anything written down for the pattern necessarily, I do remember like how I constructed it. And so it's been going pretty nicely this evening. I'm about to start the like front. I don't know if you want to call it a pocket necessarily, but that is what I'm currently about to start. And yeah, what about you? What are you
Are
working
you
on?
making the over? Hold on. Are you making the overalls separate from the
Mm-hmm.
Lovey? The one you made yesterday, was that like part of the Lovey's
Yes.
piece?
So let me see if I can reach it. So what Jess is referring to is yesterday, and I can show this because my friend hasn't, she'll have gotten it by then. So a friend of mine recently announced her pregnancy, and I really wanted to make her at least one lovey because she's ordered several for me, and I wanted to make her one as a gift, and so I based this one off of the corduroy bear from the storybook, and so this overall set specifically is crocheted like this is the body just crocheted in a different color. Whereas what I'm working on now, these are going to be removable because it's not for the hippo. I just need something to roughly model the size I'm looking for, if that makes sense.
That's why I got confused. I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like you already have a body done.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what this guy is for. And yeah, so far he's going pretty well. And yeah, what are you working on?
I'm working on a hexie um, not a granny hexie though. This is Wickedly Handmade created her own pattern for the cardigans. So I think it's just a little more
Hmm.
clean and not looking like granny squares.
No, that's fair. I have a granny hexagon cardigan that's sitting in a tub that still needs to be finished. It's been sitting in that tub for quite a while now, but we'll get to it
I
someday.
did I did make one last year. Um, Stupid me decided so for work for our Halloween um department parade thing, whatever, we were 101 Dalmatians. I was like, oh, I can totally make Cruella's coat out of a hexie cardigan. And my boss played Cruella. So it was a whole last minute thing. And I never want to do that again.
Understandably so. I think anything like that, as the minute that you add the element of something being last minute and being rushed, yeah, that I feel like rarely goes well, or at the very least is not an enjoyable crocheting experience.
No, that was stressful. It came out really good though, but I wish I had given myself more time for a lot of things for Halloween. Like I'm already started. It is September 1st. I'm a pretty good chunk of the way in for this year's Halloween stuff. So that's fun. Do you want to update the people, Adriana, on your store situations?
Sure. So, let's think of how to phrase this. So, essentially, back in the summer, I had put in an application for a store in Lancaster, and I knew I was being like it was a wait list situation, so I wasn't expecting to hear back anytime soon from the store. And so I just kind of, I don't want to say forgot about it because it was always in the back of my mind, like, hey, that could be a possibility coming down the road, but I wasn't like waiting on bated breath to get an email saying I was accepted. So, earlier this week, I heard from that store and I I'm getting a space official the end of this month, so literally 4 weeks from today. Super excited. The store is called Artisan Mill. They have two locations, one in Lidditz, and then they also have one in Lancaster County. If you're familiar with the area, it's in the Rockvale outlets. And so that is the one that I ultimately got accepted to. I this store in Rockville Outlets recently opened, like this year. And when they were in the process of opening, I had thought about applying back then, but I had been on such a string of not getting accepted into the stores I was applying to that I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. Um, like I didn't want to face another rejection, so I ended up not doing it. And then when I got accepted into the Hive, ultimately, that was kind of my going to be my main focus. And so, right now, there's still some things that need figured out as far as moving forward. Am I gonna keep staying in the two stores and whatnot? Because ultimately, the Hive is an hour and 45 minutes away versus Artisan Mill, their Lancaster location is 45 minutes away. So that's a huge saving of time that I'll be getting at Artisan Mill. Now the rent is significantly more than what I'm paying now. However, the space that I'm getting is also significantly more. So I don't know the exact measurements of the pegboard space that I have now at the Hive, but what I'm getting at Artisan Mill is a Billy bookshelf from IKEA. So it's a significant size. It does mean, as far as how I've approached my booth space in retail so far, that means that's going to have to rapidly kind of shift because I'm going from a pegboard where I'm worried about putting things on hooks and things like that to a bookshelf where I have a little bit more flexibility as far as if I want to incorporate cute little chairs for plushies, and things like that. And on the other hand, then too, for things like loveys, I no longer have like a fixed space that I can use to hang loveys. And so I've thought about, okay, maybe there's still a way in which I can incorporate a pegboard of some kind into my display so that I can still be able to do the actual hanging of things. So I ended up going yesterday with my dad. We went over, drove to the store, and I got to walk around it. And it was my first time visiting, and it is such a huge, incredible space. And like, I cannot believe that in this year alone, that not only did I get accepted into one store, but I've gotten accepted into a second one. And I've been talking with friends who are vendors, and one of my vendor friends mentioned that this store is her top store out of all of the retail spaces that she's in, which is several. This location is her top store. Granted, she is in a totally different category than me. But the one thing that I got to do yesterday when I went to check out the space is I got to kind of see what crocheters they already have and what are the things that they're offering. And I feel really lucky in that there both aren't a ton of crocheters that I have to worry about encroaching on anyone or stepping on anyone's toes. So I don't have to worry about that, but that um also that there's no one in there who is offering the exact same things as me, which is great too. So I feel really comfortable going into it that, okay, I can keep doing what I've been doing as far as what I've offered at whether it's markets or in my retail space at the Hive. So I'm really, really excited, and I can't wait to see how it goes. And I just feel very, very grateful that this opportunity is coming my way because, like, going in there and seeing the vendors that they have, so many of them I look up to and admire because they're like such professional boss women. I'm sure there are men own stuff in there too, but um most of my vendor friends are women, and it's just really cool to get to see that. And I just feel so grateful that I get to now be a part of that experience in there.
Did you get to see where your space would actually be, or do you not know who's leaving for you to go in?
I do not know who's leaving, and I didn't want to ask. Like I tried to, like I kept a low profile yesterday. I don't think the owner was in yesterday anyway when I was there. So I was like, I'm just gonna go in as a customer and I'm not gonna go in as a vendor, so I don't know exactly whose space I'll be occupying. I will say the one thing that seems like a good sign to me is that there are no open spaces. Like everyone is like every space in that store is occupied, so that feels like a really good sign to me. And I don't get the impression that they are constantly having spaces come available just based off the fact that the email that I got was pretty clear about they were really hoping to get an answer from me as soon as possible. And so at first I was like, I don't know, like I'm nervous, like that is a much higher rent than what I'm used to paying, but on the other hand, like the potential could be even more than what I am dealing with, like than what I'm experiencing now. Um, so yeah.
Okay. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what I'm able to do with the space now that I am not limited to just worrying about pegboard options. Um, and it looks like too, based on the people who had the same shelf system that I'm going to have, it looks like you're able to kind of play around with where the shelves are actually located. You're not,
Oh,
yeah, so you're
you can
not, it does.
adjust them.
Exactly. At least it's what it looks like based on the displays that I saw. So I feel optimistic that that's an accurate statement, but obviously I'll find out when I move in at the end of the month. And yeah.
That I didn't even think of that possibility of being able to adjust the shelves. Like I know I'm familiar with the bookshelves. I know you can do that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that totally gives you the option to put a pegboard in or something of that capacity. And previously, I don't think I told you this, but when you were concerned about hanging your things,
Hmm.
I wonder if you could add like command hooks to the front of it.
Potentially, because I even thought about like, okay, like how high is too high? Because now, like in theory anyway, I don't know that I'm actually gonna do it, but in theory, I can open myself up to having much bigger plushies up there. And so like if I wanted
Mhm.
to have an anchor there, like could I have that on the very top shelf? But that's a lot of space to give up for something that's probably not gonna sell all that often. So I don't know that I actually will do it, but I like that at least I have the possibility now of doing that
Yep.
because with the pegboard system, like it really is challenging trying to find creative ways to hang everything and or get enough shelves, and like those shelves get to be expensive. Um, so yeah, I'm excited about that.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And like it was just such a good atmosphere in there, and it for being 11:30 on a Sunday, the store I thought was busy. So I can't imagine what it's
That's
gonna
good.
look
That's
like.
great.
Yeah, like I can't imagine what it's gonna look like over the holidays or like on a Saturday, and things like that. Because I wouldn't say that Sundays are really big, sh like that kind of shopping day. So I felt like that was all like a really good sign.
It's the store is in a really good area too.
Hmm.
Um, it's in a very heavily touristy visited area of Lancaster. I mean, I've worked several jobs at the outlets out there. So I like it should do really well.
I think so. And plus, like this is their second location. And like I said, they've got such a good reputation among the vendors that I've talked to that I feel really, really good about how it's gonna go and like what it could be like for me to be there long term. So I'm excited to finally get in there and yeah, the 28th cannot come soon enough.
All right, let us move on to our question of the day, which I just read before we logged on, and I think it's hilarious.
It's a good
It's
question.
another would you rather. It's a good one. I like it. Would you rather run out of stuffing or safety eyes when you're almost finished with a best-selling item the night before a big show? Go.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you could play this one of two ways, but ultimately, if it's the night before a big show and it's my best-selling item, I would rather run out of the safety eyes because in theory, as much as I absolutely cannot stand embroidering eyes, that's always a viable option. Whereas the stuffing part, like, I don't know where I'm getting stuffing from. Like, unless I sacrifice other, plushies, but in that situation, if this is the night before, like I don't want to remove anything out of my inventory. So I would say the safety eyes hands down for me. What about you?
Well, my first option would be just to say screw it and just not have anything.
Sure, that's fair.
Um, but I also would choose safety eyes because I'm a very firm stuffer. So there's lots of stuffing in my plushies, and who knows when I'll be done stuffing each item. So like who knows how much polyfill I'm actually short of. Um, but yeah, I think I'd rather have to either make it go eyeless or embroider eyes or do felt eyes.
Yeah. The felt eyes I
Felt
have,
eyes is a very good option.
it is. I have none of those, but in theory, if I had felt, I do have a Cricut, so I could make them if I wanted to.
Okay, so let's get into Adriana's latest market. Do you want to give the people the whens and wheres of it?
Sure. Now I have to remember because it's been a couple weeks. So it was Saturday, August 16th, and it was located at Ashcombe, which is, if you're not familiar, it's like a sort of like a gardening center. They like sell flowers and stuff like that. I'm probably butchering it, but although I don't live in Mechanicsburg, it is right near my school where I teach. And so I'm very familiar with that area. This was another show organized by The Wandering Maker. I've talked about them a lot on the podcast. This was my third show with them for the year. And this show was actually a repeat show for me from last year. To provide some context, last year it was my best show to date. It still is my best show ever. That show I made 860 and it was a really insane day last year and so I went into the show with really high hopes. The show was like the same, it was the same time of year, same hours from 9 to 1, so a shorter show. Honestly, even the same weather, like it was kind of humid, looked a little bit like it was gonna rain, but didn't. Like it was almost in a lot of ways identical from year to year. But um yeah.
You just answered like half of our questions in one answer. Whatever. I know this is going to be a rough one. I showed up. I experienced it a little bit. It was cute. It was from the direction we came in. We were like, where the heck is this thing? It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like there was cornfields all around us.
Hmm.
um, but let's get into the rest. Was it How big was it?
It was their typical size for markets, they usually average, I want to say about 40-ish vendors a show. So about normal, I think, as far as if you look at the number of crocheters, there was, I think, just one other main crocheter. And I think her and I were at a lot of shows together through the Wandering Maker. So, as far as like that element goes, it was pretty normal as far as like the setup of the day. It was pretty normal and like what I expected as far as size, location, vibe, all that stuff.
And how big was your space?
10 by 10. It was
Okay.
actually the first show of the year somehow that I had to put up my canopy. Up until this point, any shows that I've done that have technically been outdoor, I've been under some other structure, whether it's been a huge tent or I was in like an open air barn at one show this year. So it was actually kind of funny because, I mean, not funny in the sense of it was a little bit stressful, but like Alex and I were so out of practice putting up the canopy, which is a little ridiculous because it is like one of the easy up canopies, but
That's the
even
easiest canopy to get up.
it is, but it was just like I don't know, like we're so quick with it now with so many other things, but we were not with getting the canopy up and ready. Like we were just it wasn't that it took us forever, like it's still so much faster than my old canopy, but it just I don't know, it just wasn't that smooth process that I could do it, without him. What was also not great about setup, and this ended up lasting for the entire show, but we were basically, I wouldn't say attacked by sweat bees is a little dramatic, but there were a ridiculous amount of sweat bees. Like, and that was from the minute the show started until we left at the very end. So that part was not wonderful to deal with during setup and everything. But anyway.
Have you opened your tent since then to see how many dead ones fall out?
Nope. We shook it really bad, like when we were packing it
Okay.
away. So I'm optimistic that we got them all, but yeah, I don't even want to think about it.
There were so many everywhere.
It was awful. And what made it particularly bad for me is on either side I had like sweat bee attractors. So like the one side I
Oh.
had a girl who was selling cookies and then the other side they were selling flowers. So it was like I was kind of screwed, honestly, as far as that goes because there was nothing with being next to those vendors, which they're both wonderful, like nothing wrong with them. It was just there was no way I was gonna get away from those sweat bees even if I tried. So it is what it is.
Yeah. So, did you prepare any special items for this show?
Um, no. The last year I knew Lovey's did really, really well. I think I sold 7 last year, which is insane. And so to some extent, I wanted to prioritize those, but what I ended up focusing more on was the little stuff because, like last year, I had sold out of like turtles and I had sold out of loaf cats and there were I think I sold out of fried eggs and pigs like so the little stuff was I would say kind of my main focus and then some of the newer stuff that I brought in like that was my first show where I had the Drift the Octopus which I'm actually starting right now and also it was the first show that I had I don't have it near me to show you, but the Pouncing Dragon, that was the first time I had that. It was also the first time I had mystery bags. So I wouldn't say I necessarily prepped anything special per se. Like these were things that I would have added to my booth at that point no matter what show I was doing, but I knew like I did really well with small stuff last year, so I need to make sure I have plenty of those so I don't sell out.
Yeah. Did you have any goals specifically for the show, either monetary numbers or
Uh,
anything?
Monetarily, it was my hope that this would be my common market for the year. Based on the fact of what I sold last year, and I didn't have as far as the little stuff goes, I had neither the variety of inventory nor did I have the number. I thought I stood a really good chance of that happening. As far as any other goals, that was pretty much it for me. Like I really wanted to beat the prior year. Yeah.
What was the crowd situation like?
Traffic was minimal, to be honest. I had really high hopes because I had sold something at like 8:40 and it was a drift octopus and I felt really confident that oh my gosh, like this is gonna go amazing. Like I've already sold something, like this is a really good sign. But the traffic was just not there for whatever reason. I can't figure out for the life of me why, because when, again, like I said earlier, when you compare every metric that exists as far as weather, location, time, both like not only time of the day, but also time of the year, like everything was the same since last year, but the traffic did not reflect that. And so I'm not sure what it was because even if you would say weather last year, I'm telling you the weather was the exact same and that seemed to have no impact last year. So I'm not really sure what happened this year. But yeah, traffic was not it was not it.
Mhm. Um, so let's just get into the finances of it. How much did you bring with you?
I actually counted this time, thank God. I brought 2050, which
And
in the
how,
grand scheme
go
of
ahead.
things is not terrible for me. It's not obviously the greatest, but when I have over $1,000 of inventory sitting up at the hive, like to know that ultimately Yellow the Egg Designs that day had over 3,000, like that for me is a good stepping stone to where I want to be, I would say.
Yeah. And how much did you end up selling?
Ah, this is so humbling. And honestly, I
Did you
thought I
tell me
was
before?
over
I
it.
don't think you did.
Huh?
Did you tell me? I don't think you did.
Probably not. So just for reference, my booth fee was 85, which is standard. That's how it always is. But I made $177.
Ouch.
Yep, it was brutal. There's no other way to put it. Like that was absolutely disgusting to me. Um, and I get the sense that I don't know that anyone truly, truly cleaned up that day or did particularly well. Especially for those of us who were there last year. I know the girl that was next to me who is selling cookies, she almost every single show she does, if it's a good show she sells out, she was not sold out. So, granted, she still did well, like no doubt about it, but like even for her, like for that being her standards, like I tried from that standpoint, I tried not to beat myself up too much because of that fact that no one was killing it. But it did like that is a over 75% decrease year over year. That is crazy. That is depressing. I'm trying to think the show that I had earlier this year, Moon Dancer, that was particularly awful. I can't remember if that was a 75% decrease, but I don't think so. I think it was closer to 50. Still not great, obviously, but um I don't know. I don't I don't know.
I was there. I experienced it at least the time that I was there. Like there were just no people. So, like you and I have conversed about this show. We've taken forever to record this episode. um, but like I know you've been concerned, like, what could I have done differently, etc. But you couldn't have done anything differently because there was just no one there.
Yeah. And like
There,
I
like,
know, go ahead.
no, I've lost my train of thought.
Well, I just like some of the stuff that I have, like I know I have proof of concept. Like my mystery bags, I am like I can't keep them in stock up at the hive, like to the point of I haven't quite sold out, but like I've taken 36 mystery bags and I have like four left up there. I sold two at this show and they're cheaper at the market because I'm not worried about the commission that's being, taken out. Like like the Drift the Octopus, like those have done really well for me at the Hive. I also only sold two at this show. Like it was obviously you not having enough traffic, but it is especially crappy for me because it's like I know that these are things that can sell well, but there wasn't the people there to buy them. So how could I
There
do
definitely
well?
was not the people.
So,
Yeah.
um,
It's like you can't, I know it sucks and you're in your head about it, but there was literally nothing you could have done
right.
because there were no people there.
Yeah.
Do you have
And
any final things to say about this show?
um I am starting to get concerned as time goes on, particularly this year with some of the trends with markets and I'm a little worried that I don't even know if this holiday season is going to be as good as normal because I'm starting to think people are really feeling the pressures of the economy as far as in their wallets. And like, it's hard for me because I'm doing so well at the Hive, at least for what I think is well. And I don't know if it's because, I don't know, like, is the thing that I've said to you and a couple other people is that I almost feel like retail people, even in hard economic times or even when they're struggling financially, to some extent, people will still go to retail spaces because that's what they know, whatever, like to some extent, there's a little bit more predictability as far as certain price points go. Whereas I think at a maker's market and things like that, I feel like those are going to be the first thing that people start to cut out if they go to them at all, because there isn't so much the predictability of what you will find there, but also those events, I think your price points tend to be a little bit higher than what they are in a retail setting, which for me is not the case because it's conversely so. I price my things higher at the store because of the fact that there's an additional commission being taken out. But I don't know. I don't know if that argument holds any water, but I just have to wonder if that might be what is happening. I don't know. What's your take? Because I know we both said the same thing. Like markets this year have not been hitting. So
Yeah. Um, you'll hear it in our next episode, which was my last market, but I had the same situation where people just didn't show up. Um, I'd like to be hopeful that like you just got to get through the rough stuff and it'll get better. But this is like 2 straight years for me that it's been downhill. Um, it could just be like the situations in the world that's going on, but I don't know. I have I have no idea. Are there too many things going on at the same time? Like too many shows happening in the same area at the same time? Um, I don't
and
know.
maybe
How do
and maybe
you know?
it's because we talked about this earlier this year. Maybe it's not even a matter of the fact. Maybe it's not even a matter of too many events are happening on the same date, but rather too many events are happening in a cluster. as far as a span of weeks or a month or whatever. And people just not only do they, not have time because life happens and things like that,
They're
but
burnt
also
out.
like, yeah, literally both mentally and also like financially. Like people can't go to markets every single weekend and buy handmade stuff all the time. As much as we want to support small businesses, like the reality is like that does come at a cost. And if you're in hard economic times, like many people are, that's going to be a much more difficult cost to bear.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Which for this podcast, it makes me worry. Like I'm my concern is disappointing the people. And like it seems like every show that we're doing now, especially, it's like bummer after bummer after bummer. But the reality of it is shows aren't always bummers. And if someone was interested in starting to pursue this, like I want to be encouraging of it. And we're not really great examples of that right now.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's just that the people aren't coming. And I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe like I just want to stay hopeful and hope that um things get better.
And I think even for what the individual definition is of a good market too, like there are genuinely some people who would have walked away from the show that I did and felt decent about it and that it wasn't like a complete failure. And I mean, in theory, right? Like anything above my booth fee, so in this case, anything above $85 is technically to some extent profit. And I think it is it is no small feat to run any kind of even remotely successful small business, especially when it's something that you've built with your own two hands and your own mind. I mean, I think that in and of itself is an accomplishment. I just think there does come a time when you're used to a certain level and you have that expectation and it doesn't get met, that's what gets difficult. And that's probably also when you start to lose some small businesses. But I think above all, like obviously the monetary aspect matters, right? Because if you're depending on this money to feed your family, or if you're depending on this money simply to replenish your yarn stash, like the markets and stuff matter. But I think the other lesson that could come of this too is like sometimes it the money matters, and I don't want to downplay that at all. But I think also going to these events, and even if you're getting that verbal appreciation and people aren't necessarily in a position to support you financially by buying from you, I think even just putting yourself out there is a huge thing. Many people aren't going to do something like this in their lives, so it's already so brave. And then to get verbal recognition and appreciation from people, you're also in that capacity when you're setting up at a market, you're also serving as a representative of the crochet community. And if that inspires someone down the road to pursue crochet as a hobby or even eventually a business, that's wonderful. But if it also too educates people on, wow, there are still people out there who, rather than taking the short way out and just buying whatever's mass produced, there's still people taking the time to make the handmade items like what we do in crochet. Like, I think that has value in it too. So,
Yeah.
but I'm also able to say this now being a couple weeks away from the market. I promise you, this is not how I was talking the evening afterward. So,
No. I think it's
but
also really important for you to have fun
right.
just
And
in your time, whatever.
I think the one thing too, like even if a market doesn't necessarily go quite to plan, like I did get to meet like see my other vendor friends, and I did kind of I got to spend quality time with my fiance, which obviously is like a wonderful thing too. And ultimately, like I will continue to grow and learn from it. It's just it is hard when it's, you know, not necessarily a consistent experience, but when you have several of these experiences in a row. But that is the reality. And I do take solace in the fact that I'm doing well in the retail store. So there are still people out there who appreciate crochet as an art form, and I don't think that will go away.
Yeah.
So, for what it's worth.
Yeah. Um, what's your likelihood of doing this one again?
Now I feel like I'm about to contradict everything I just said. So, I don't know, people. Take this with a grain of salt. I might not do it, but I am currently in the process of reconsidering my approach with markets, at least. That isn't to say I want to stop doing them, but I have started to think about, and I'm seeing other makers who have done this, where they're only setting up at markets at a certain time of the year, i.e., in the fall and the during the holiday season. And I've started to think about that approach for myself, and for a couple of reasons. I won't obviously lie, the decrease in sales at markets year over year, at least recently, that's obviously a little bit of a deterrent for me to want to keep setting it up and continuing. But I've had this taste of what it's like to do well in the retail space, and my aspirations have changed a little bit, and I want to be able to find more ways like selling at the Hive or the Artisan Mill where I can put my art out there, but I don't necessarily have to be there. I appreciate and I value those interactions with customers when I see exactly who it is that's getting my item, but I am also interested in the possibility of how can I diversify this business a little bit more so that when things like poor markets happen, I can still have income coming in from other streams. And so if I do fewer markets, that allows me to focus a little bit more time on growing the inventory in the retail space, but also I really want to get into pattern writing. I really want to explore that space. I have original ideas, not a lot, a couple, but like I have these ideas, and I physically have no time right now between the demands of my full-time job and then everything else that I'm doing for the business to be able to expand in that way. But and it's something that I really want to do. So, um, long story short, or not so short, I guess, I am kind of not sure if I will do this specific market again. I don't think it has anything to do with the organizer because I've had good shows with them. Like I genuinely in my heart of hearts, I don't think it's them. Um, but I also don't want to keep risking all this time, energy, money, whatever into markets if I can maybe go for ones that have a more likelihood of doing well because people are more likely to spend money in Q4 rather than 2 or 3. So that's where I'm at on markets. We'll see what happens with the rest of the year. Um, and what that will ultimately look like for me, but I have other ideas for how I want to diversify my business, and that's currently what I'm trying to explore.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your thoughts on that, but I think you are already started on a good path.
Plus, too, I don't know. I know there are like some people that absolutely do not ever want to do markets. Not that they necessarily look down on them, but like that's just not something that they're into. But I'm really glad like that I've done them. Like I think like that is such a great experience. I don't know that without markets I would have ever gotten into a store. So
Yeah.
like I'm glad for the experience, and I think it's made me appreciate um it's not only made me appreciate, I think, the work that goes into being at those events, but like the friendships that have formed because of markets, like with you, for example, and things like that. Like I can't put a price tag on stuff like that. So on that sense, even if one day Yellow of the Egg designs would cease to exist, which I don't foresee that, but anything can happen. It's life. Um, like at least I got those things out of it. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this sucker up. We would love to hear from you guys who listen or watch us. We'd like to add a couple more segments or whatever into this. So we would love to hear your opinions. What do you want to hear? What questions do you have about markets or crochet or having a small business in general? Like, what questions do you have that we can answer? Um, would you like to see the tools we use? Would you like to see certain guests? Just let us know. Reach out to one of us and we'll get moving on it.
Yeah, we are definitely interested in like kind of spicing things up because I can appreciate if the market debriefs, even if they were always going positively, like there might be other aspects that you're interested in hearing about from us that we haven't gotten into yet. So please let us know whether it's a comment, a DM, whatever. We're definitely open and interested.
Absolutely.
So
All right. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say thank you guys so much for listening and watching wherever you're hearing us or watching us from. Please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, whatever. And be sure to also follow us at our business pages. So Jess is at Crack Creations on Instagram and Facebook, Crack spelled like the podcast, Craic. And I am at Yellow of the Egg Designs, also on those social media pages. Thank you guys again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.